Good morning, Rabbi Sai. Today's shir is being sponsored by Adam Lobatto, shleimah of my father, Devora Faige, Miriam, who's just received some difficult news and needs HKBH Baruch Hu's nisim. And by Ari Blum. Says, sadly, the Avelos of the Churban was winding down yesterday morning. My mother's family's Avelos continue with the loss of my Zeida at 90. Giving his love for learning. I'm bringing this because Ari Blum is a very big part of the Daf, and he's a big writer, and he spends a lot of time writing for Ora Merkaz. So I'm going to read this, and also because his grandfather is very, very into the Daf. Giving his love for learning, I can think of nothing better than sponsoring today's shir, an 8-minute clip as an aliyah for his neshama. Apart from his family, nothing came before his Daf Yomi shir. He enjoyed many of the finer things in life, but his greatest pleasure was to discuss the Succah in that day's Daf. Having been in a shir with him once before, I can testify that he's never happy until he's fully comfortable with the pshat and the Gemara. He would never admit, but why was his Zeida to finish Shas so many times? His last weeks, when he was too weak to keep up with the Daf, he switched to learning Yerushalmi with my uncle. Kids, so he left behind the beautiful mishpacha, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, all proud Shem Torah mitzvahs. Maybe he made it to Yosef, our dear Bobby. Kol Tov, Ari Blum. Lili nishmas, Chaim David ben Avraham. Yes. This guy goes up. So says the guy in the booth. Yeah, no, it's, I know what it is. Zeida. This one is for you, Tzaddik. I don't have it here. Whatever. Maybe you'll bring it up soon. By Uri Stern. You know Uri Stern? I joined this year a few weeks ago at the end of Yuma. To say I haven't learned in 40 years wouldn't be true. I'm only 36 and I work for the Mir. However, the geschmack I have listening to the shir is a geschmack that is too real to describe. My whole day has become Daf Yomi. I start with listening to shir and then I listen to the Chazar shir, which I would love if you did every day. I also find others who learn Daf Yomi and ask them questions and talk to them in learning. It's mamish made a new me. I live in Yerushalayim and try to Zoom in the mornings, but if not, sometimes because of my job, I only go to sleep at 3 a.m. Listen right when it goes online. I Zoom on Motzei Shabbos, but I hope to start coming to Bet Shemesh to hear it live. Hopefully someone could save me a seat. I hope to introduce myself in person. Thanks so much for everything. Have a great Shabbos. Uri, P.S. I'm not a good writer. Leave that to Nachman. Is there any way to call you a voice note, as sometimes I need clarity from things that were mentioned this shir that would be a lot easier and clear? Uri Stern. No comment. You can email questions. Noam is going to take those questions. The Parnas HaChodesh is Michael Benmeleh in memory of his mother, Devora Faige bas shmuel, and father-in-law Menachem Mendel ben Elchanan, and in Succah to make it to Uman Rosh this year. Rabbi Sai, this is my 4th shir in the last 20 hours. And I'm full of koiches. I'm mamish bringing it up. About to fly to America. And I'm asking you to please daven that things should go smoothly in terms of this shir. Avi Mendel says like this. I have to say, for the first 30 plus years of my life, I don't think I ever fully appreciated the loss of Beis HaMikdash. It simply didn't work for me. I couldn't feel the connection and therefore the loss of a building destroyed nearly 2,000 years ago. It goes on and on. Today, after almost 3 months of Yuma, learning all about the Beis HaMikdash, the Kalim, and the replacement, the orientation, today's kinos took on a greater meaning for me. I was able to understand many of the kinos much better this morning than ever before. You often comment that learning the Daf will make you a better husband, better father, better this and better that. Today, learning the Daf has 100% made me a better Jew as I go over some of the kinos with my daughters, a better father. Thank you. May this be the last time we fast Tisha B'Av. Amen. Today's Daf is Daf Yud Gimel. We're holding on the top. Omer Avchonan bar Rava. Hani hizmei v'higei misachim b'hu. Hizmei is this stuff maybe, just for illustrative purposes. You could use this as schach. Higei is, we're a little bit more familiar, thorn bush. You could use this as schach. Abai says no. Abai omar behizmei misachim. You could use this. Behigei loi misachim. You cannot, misachinon, you cannot use this as schach. My time, why? Kivin the nasri tarfayu, since the leaves keep on falling down, says Rashi, constantly. It's a constant bombardment of leaves. Shavak lov and Nafik. Once again, we have the svara that we started off the Amud, the top words on this Amud that we finished off in the morning, or yesterday if you're watching it. If it has a terrible foul odor, you can't use it as schach because it's going to chase you out of the schach, out of the sukkah. Over here, this is also going to chase you out of the sukkah because it's very uncomfortable to sit there while this thing is hitting you in the head. It's mashma though, I believe the Ritva says this, that it would be okay to put this on the wall. He doesn't say the other thing, but I'm assuming what he means to say is that you cannot put this stuff, shvatzare, on the wall, ushushe, because the smell is the smell. What's the difference? But this, since it's about falling into your head, into your soup, so this is the problem according to Abai. Not exactly short, but I found the picture here. This might do the job for us. It's not the greatest picture. But this is towards the bottom of the decal. Somebody chopped down the palm tree. And if you look over here, there's a lot of offshoots. Imagine you take this whole piece, the whole circle with the offshoots. So Gemara wants a thing, this Gemara is saying that there might be a problem here, that it's eged. You're putting a bundle of wood on your sukkah. Look here, 1 piece, 2 piece, 3 pieces, 4 pieces. They're all connected with this. This is a nice giant rope or whatever you want to call it. It's attaching them all. So maybe it's also, maybe it's putting a bundle of schach on your sukkah. And why is that not a problem? Because it happened with Shemayim. You didn't do it. There's no gzeiras oitzer over here. Even though it's all tied together, what's the whole problem? The problem is that you might come to use your storehouse for a sukkah. You might have a bundle on your shoulder, you want to dry it out, that's not a concern when it's b'dei shamayim. Because Baruch Hu made this eged, not you. Avagav, the hodar ogid luhu, even though at a further time, he went, now look at this. Rashi explains, because these guys are difficult for schach. They go upwards, they dray this way, that way, they're not good schach. So you want to tie them down and create a schach out of them. So even though you're tying it, avagav the hodar ogid luhu, eged b'chad, lo yishmei eged. One item, you can't tie down one item. It's already tied at the source. You can't go ahead and tie it more. You're not going to gain anything. Tying your own hair is not tying. It's already attached to your head. So you're going to tie it over here. Great. You did another knot, but it's already there. What? The back of your head. It doesn't matter how many times you use the trunk. So, so, the Hasidim want to say over here that Klal Yisrael is one. Klal Yisrael is one neshama with a lot of gufim. So, Menachem, there's no need to get them together. We're all one. No matter who we are and where we are, we're all one. Yeah? They don't really say it. I said it. Again, the same exact halacha. Again, just this time it's on reeds, canes, anything that has offshoots. You could use it as chach. Even though the source brings together other stuff. Let me ask you here. Here's a great example. If you have a branch, you have a bunch of other things coming off the branch. So is that branch a eged? It's ma'aged all the offshoots? No, everybody understands. It's one piece that has a lot of offshoots. So it doesn't matter if you tie it or you don't tie it. Eged b'dei shamayim lo yishmei eged. Again, same idea. If the reed holds together a bunch of other offshoots, since it's min shamayim, it's not a problem. And even if you're going to go and take all the offshoots and tie those down, it's too late already. Shamayim already tied it down. Ogid b'chad, lo yishmei eged. Tayin ha'malachim, the same malach again. Konim v'du kronim misakchim b'hem. Same idea. You have the reed and you have the offshoots. Konim pshita. So you can read it two ways. Konim vidu kronim. Two things happen there. Either he's using the reeds or he's using the offshoots of the reeds. Konim shita, of course you use reeds. That's bamboo. Everybody in the olden days, that's what everybody used. Says the Gemara, Ema konim sheldi kronim. It's not konim vidu kronim. It's not with a vav. It means to say konim sheldi kronim. That if you have a reed that has offshoots, like we're talking up until now, misakhem bem. Just because it holds everything together doesn't mean that it's again it's a problem. Omar Rav Chizda, Omar Ravina Bar Shilo, Hanem Marisa the Agmo, going to Marer now, flying into Pesach. You have Marer. What kind of Marer? Lettuce. Now, if you were with us during Pesachim, you know, because the big Litvak here, I had to mention 100 times during Pesachim that the best Marer is romaine lettuce, not the horseradish. And then all the Hasidim wrote in that in Chanami, yeah, they also used lettuce, but they also used horseradish because in the Chaim they didn't have lettuce. And they became a minhag to use the horseradish. But the Mishnah says that you're supposed to use lettuce, romaine lettuce first. Okay, fine. But I had to stick it in, of course. So Hanim Iris the Agam. Guy brings lettuce from the Agam, from the swamp. What kind of lettuce is it? It's not romaine, and it's not the other types of lettuce, iceberg. It's agam lettuce. It's the swamp lettuce. You can use it for Pesach, for Maror. All the guys for Pesach. Meisvei. How could you use it for Pesach? Ezoiv v'loy Ezav Yavan. Now there are a bunch of Ezovs in the Torah. I left my Ezov at home by the door. What? Yeah? Why? Arshel says yain. Interesting. Are you sure? Yeah, sure. Why would he say yain? So. Does anybody have an English art scroll here? It says yavan or yain. What? See? We go by the art scroll. But the funny thing is, yavan. It's yavan, yeah. Sometimes the English, machlokes is in English and Hebrew. Okay. It doesn't, yain doesn't fit in here. I don't know why they did that. I mean, they know what they're talking about also. Okay, listen, it's not important. The point is that it has another name. Okay? It's called the Ezav Yavan. Or Yain. In the Hebrew article, Yain, and the Mesivta says Yavan. In my Gemara with the Nakuda says Yavan, which we don't really rely on that much, but okay, if it is machlokes in mind. Ezav Yain, it's one word. I bet you it comes from the word Yavan, and it's just called Yain. It's the same, maybe it's the same shirish. Okay. There's a plant that's called Ezav Yain. Okay. Great. The point is that the Torah says you should bring an Ezav. I don't know, okay, the new guys don't know, but I had one, I made an Ezav, and I sprinkled it, and I hit Rabbi Schoenberg by mistake in the face instead of hitting. So, the Ezav that you use to burn the paraduma, you use it, the famous one is to be metar a tmeimei, somebody that touched the corpse, you dunk it into the water of the efer of the paraduma, and you sprinkle, we did a whole demonstration, and then you have it for the Metzora, and you have it, we mentioned today, this morning, by the Carbon Pesach, the first Carbon Pesach, you have the Ezav. Don't use any Ezav that has some Shem Levi, that has a nickname. You must use the original Ezav. Lo Ezav Yavan, v'lo Ezav Kochli, v'lo Ezav Midbari, v'lo Ezav Roimi, v'lo Ezav Shesh Li Shem Levi. Because the bottom line is, anything that has another name, a double name, don't use it. So Mela what? So over here, how can you use this marar that's called lettuce of the swamp, the agam? It should be completely possible. So the Rebbe Akiva Eiger asks a beautiful kash. I mean, there's 5 marars in the Mishnah. One of them is horseradish. All these are Shem Levi's, no? It says in the Torah marar, like you're supposed to eat marar, yet there's 5 different types. They're all Shem Levi. Okay, fine. Anyone that had a name change before Matan Torah, and then the Torah comes along and says, use Ezav. Do not use Ezav Roimi. Do not use Ezav Yavan. B'yadua sheyesh lo Shem Levi. V'hani lo nishtana shemai koydem Matan Torah klal. Says the Gemara, this lettuce of the Agam, that was its name before Matan Torah. It's all included in Marar. When the Torah says Marar, it meant that also. It's not another name. That is it. That's part of it. There's romaine lettuce and there's agam lettuce. And that's all, when the Torah was written, that's what it meant. It was in existence in those days. Rabba Amar, Hanim Riso Stomashmayu. Marar is plain. In other words, this agam marar is plain old marar. What do you call it when you go to the store? Say, give me a bag of marar. So why did he call it the agam marar? He was just saying, I want to be specific. I'm telling you, it's the marar that you find in the agam. That's not its name. The real name is marar, and Menachem fits in. No. That is what, in the dictionary, it's called the Ezev Yavan. In the dictionary, it's called marar. It's how people relate to it. If you want to be more descriptive, you're going to say the one of the swamp. But otherwise, you say marar. That's what Rabbi said. Omar Rav Chizda. Eged b'chad. Lo yishmei eged. So you take this Ezoiv. Huh? Who asks? I don't believe you until you show it to me inside. Eged b'chad. Lo yishmei eged. Here he goes. Take it. Eged b'chad. Lo yishmei eged. Shol yishmei eged. So, if you take one ezoiv, one piece of schach, a chavila, you take one bamboo and you wrap it around with a string, that's not considered tying it up. Shalosh me'eged. Now, there's a big problem to discuss, because I mentioned earlier today, when it comes to a chavila in the Mishnah, how much is a chavila? Taisus brings Yerushalmi that's 25. All of a sudden now the Gemara says 3 is enough. So either the Yerushalmi is mechulik on the Babli, Babli is mechulik on the Yerushalmi, or they have other tirutzim. Shnayim machloikis Rabbi Yossi v'Rabbanan. If you take 2 pieces and you tie them together, is it or isn't it considered tying something together? Machloikis Rabbi Yossi v'Rabbanan. This nan mitzvahs ezoiv shlosha klachim. So when you take the ezoiv for the mechatos, this is in order to purify something that's tamei. The mitzvah is with 3 klachim. 3 klachim means 3 roots. You have to literally rip out the ezoiv from the ground. Ubahem, and in each one of the roots, shleisha gevailim total. Okay, this is what Rashi says. Not in each one 3, but all together 3 gevailim. In other words, in the center of the klachim, in the center of this root, there's 1 piece that comes out. So you have a total of 3 gevailim. The 3 center pieces, and that you have all the ezoiv stuff on it. Rabbi Yossi Omer, mitzvahs ezoiv, shloisha gevailim, v'shiyarav shnayim. Because Rabbi Yossi says that if I'm using this and I'm sprinkling, what happens when you go like this over and over? Another person, they went to the levaya, you have a levaya of 100,000 people, you have to go like this. Eventually it's going to break off, something's going to break, and you're going to be left with 2. So 2 is enough. 2 is enough. If you start out with 3 and you're left with 2, 2 is enough. Can you start out with 2? No, maybe. Vigardum of kolshu. And the stub, as long as you have a little bit of a stub, you're good. In other words, the 2, and they're made out of stubs, you have a kolshu. So we had a havamina with the shior of shnayim tchilas. Maybe Rabbi Yossi says, if you start out with 3 and you end up with 2, that's good enough. So maybe you can start out with 2. Why do you have to start out with 3 in order to get to 2? The reason why it says shleisha, not because you have to have 3. It's not a mechiyuv. It's good to start out with 3. And if you end up with 2, it's also good. And if you start out with 2, it's also good. So why 3? Because it's a special mitzvah. Oh, and the Rabbi Yossi shleisha mitzvah, the Rabbanan shleisha lakim. Now, chacham are mechulik on Rabbi Yossi. What exactly is the machlokes? Obviously, Rabbi Yossi says that 3 is a mitzvah. You don't have to start out with 3. So chacham say no. 3 is ma'akiv. Okay, so we have a little bit of machlokes here between Rabbi Yossi and Rabbanan. It seems like you have to start with 3. Mefurish. Rabbi Yossi says you have to start with 3. You can't start with 2. You have to start off with 3. Okay, so not such a big problem. we got the names mixed up. We'll flip the names, but the bottom line is we have a machlokes. It's the opposite. It's Rabbi Yossi who says you need to start out with 3, and it's Ma'akev. Rabbanan say you don't need to start with 3. The only reason we say 3 is a special mitzvah, but you could also start off with 2, and that's the shaila here. Is that considered the eged or not? We're tying together 3, we're tying together 2. But Tanya, and I'll prove it to you. Ezav t'chilas shnaim sharv echad kosher. If you start out with 2, and then you're left over with 1, it's okay. So that's Rabbanan. It's only possible when you start out with 1 and you left over with 1. As the Gemara, Shi'ar v'echad pasul, Harm shi'ar v'echad kosher. We just said that if you left over with 1, after you've done everything, you're good. So why are you saying that if you start out with, if you end up with 1, that it's pasul? You're not pasul. Says the Gemara, Ela Ema, and this is interesting lashon. Ela Ema achete tchilasoi kishiyarav echad. The only time when you start out as pasul is like if you end up with 1, and if you end up with 1, you're kosher. It doesn't mean that it's kosher. It means just like the number 1 at the end is kosher. So when you start out with 1, it's pasul. It's a little bit of play with words. Ela achete tchilasoi Kishiyarov echad. When you start out with 1, like in a case that you end up with 1, but not the same halacha. When you end up with 1, it's okay. So when you start out with 1, the same case, then it's pasul. No, we proved that we had to flip it. No, we have something that says the same exact thing as Rabbanan. We established that Rabbanan and Rabbi Yossi, Rabbanan are the one that Mekel, and then we have a Beis that's Mekel, so it has to be. We just turned to Daf Yomi Beis, sponsored by the MDY Tehillim Group. For all those who need Shidduchim, Refus, and Shuas, please join Tehillim.8mindaf.com. Okay. Who's those? Dorash Mireimar. Hani. Yisuriyaso the surah. You have these bundles of reeds. They come in a bundle, mesakrimbu. Now what about the problem of chavile, zmoiros, chavile, kashim, all these things? Here you have a bundle. Avagav dogdan, even though they are tied, liminyana ba'amud dogdan. The person never had intent for an oitzar. He's not storing it. The reason why it's in a bundle like we do today. You buy a dozen eggs, it comes in a certain carton. You buy a certain amount of things, it comes tied. Whatever it is. Toothpicks come in a certain, it's 200 of these. It's 25 of these. It's just to give you a number. It's not for you to store it. And Menmeleh, since it's not for storage, you're allowed to use it for schach. There's no gzeres oitzer here. Omer Babo. Hanetz rifa dur b'nei. So you have a hut made out of aravos, willow. And the top has a knot, and on the bottom they tie it together. Says the Gemara, if you undo the top right over here, then it's kosher schach. As the Gemara, but at the end of the day, it's still tied. Says the Gemara, Papa, the sharluhu. It's talking about that he undid the bottom also. Ravuna bered Rav Yeshua afilu tema delay sharlu. You don't have to undo the bottom. Kol eged sheni osel litalteloi loy shmei eged. Anytime you tie something together, but it's not made to carry, you're not tying it together to carry, that's not considered tying a bundle. So the Hasidim want to say over here, I like that one. I'm not Hasidic, you're right. So the Hasidim say, oh yeah, it's mamish moedic stuff here. We have to say something, right? I'm going to America. Anytime you have a relationship with somebody, an eged, but you're not willing to carry the burden, it's not a relationship. In other words, like this. Stop being so serious. Yeah. You know, when you're in a relationship with somebody, you have to put up with their shtusim, with their idiosyncrasies, with their mishigas. Everybody, in other words, everybody has a mishigas. So the way to have a good relationship with the other person is to put up with the mishigas, to be metal the mishigas. So there's a story. Ma'aseh Shaya. There's a guy that was famous for having an unbelievable shalom bayis. Unbelievable. He's 70 years old. He lived his whole life, 50 years with the same woman, and it was Yidua. So the king went to visit this guy, and he wanted to see the secrets of the shalom bayis. So the king knocks on the door. The guy welcomes him in. He's very excited, a guest. And the old man tells his old wife, he says, listen, go get a watermelon for the guest. So she goes down to the storehouse, and she schleps a watermelon. It takes her like 10 minutes to get back. Massive watermelon. And the 70-year-old takes the watermelon and gives it a zetz, and he listens closely to hear. No. We have a guest here. What if? No. Another one. She claps the watermelon, she goes, comes back, all schwitzing and everything. Takes the watermelon, second time, gives it a whack. No. We have a guest. Come on. Third time, he gives it a whack. He says, Mardik. Oh, unbelievable. This is a good one. Fine. So the king says, listen, I heard Rabbi Yid that your shalom bayis is unbelievable. Eila. What's the secret? She says, you want to know the secret? Come with me to the storehouse. But before we go there, you need to tell me, you have to guess, a wild guess. How many watermelons do I have in my storehouse? So the king says, well, at least another 2. He says, okay, fine. So they go to the storehouse, the warehouse, and they open up the door. The king can't believe it. There's 0 watermelons in there. She says, you see, my wife knows my mishigas. Every time I have a guest, I play this game. She comes, she brings a watermelon, I go boom, boom, not good. And she goes with it, she rolls with it. So, that's the yisoid. If you can roll with mishigas, how does it fit into the words? I have no idea. Kol eged she'enoi osel l'talta lo shmei eged. If you have a relationship, and you can't carry the burdens, the other zachen, the mishigasin, it's not a good relationship. Okay. He's laughing away. I want you to remember me like that. I want you to work on our relationship. You have to put up with my stuff. How do you give something good in the middle of a sugya of hutzin and this kind of schach and that kind of schach? You come up with something better, Nachman. Get over here. Okay, fine. On the fourth.
That's a story.
Bli neder. I won't say that story as long as, okay. You know, I think you should get up here and say the story about the train.
That's a good story.
Listen, the Dailam is they're coming from Mincha. They don't need to hear the story. It's one of the worst stories ever. Okay, fine. Says the Gemara, but you know what? I'm learning. I put up with your Mishigasin. I put up with your Mishigasin, no matter what. I love you still, and that's why you sit right over here. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. I don't. He does. I'm not going. He needs it.
Do me a favor. Could you go to my house and get a watermelon, please?
All right, above the show. Okay, fine. Where are we?
I'm Rabbi Abba.
At least you know where we're holding. All right, Baba. Omer Shmuel, says Shmuel. Yerakoi shamru chachamim adam yoytzei midei chavasi b'Pesach. All these vegetables that chachamim say shalom aleichem, that chachamim say that you can use as maror on Pesach. Meviim is atuma. We know the sugya. We just learned the sugya today, yesterday, last week. Same idea as this picture. It's so pashut that the Kol HaLashon doesn't even have a picture for it. It goes like this. We learned that if you have a beam and it's further away from this, I'm from New York, so a garbage bag is where they disposed of body parts in New York, the mafia. So there's a mace in this garbage bag. I guess the guy that drew this also is from New York. He didn't put like a dead person. That's not nice. I guess. Okay, fine. There's a mace in here. If this is further away from the mace, 1 tefach, this is going to shield the tumah from hitting this kli, A. And B, the kli that's next to it is going to become tameh because the tumah roams. Now, pretend that this picture is a sukkah. Here, the walls of the sukkah. And on top are vegetables. Marar, the guy comes and brings a bunch of lettuce, uses lettuce. Now, lettuce is very thin. It's going to disappear when? By the time Sukkot is over, it's gone. And we're going to learn this halacha. Anytime you know that the schach is going to dry out and go bye-bye, it's as if it was never there even for 1 minute. Even the first day of Sukkot, when it's nice and moist, it's not schach. Therefore, so if this beam, just pretend this beam is a piece of lettuce, it will create tumah down below, everything becomes tumah. In other words, it's a good beam. And then all of a sudden it says, Ve'ein chaytzitzin b'fnei tumah. Now this is almost a contradiction. It doesn't provide a shield to tumah, and tumah goes right through it. Why not? If it's a beam, it should provide a shield. So the answer is, that midaraisa, it's good, it's a good shield. So Menachem, if it's a good shield, the tumah goes down here. But the Rabbanan, they said it's not good. And therefore, it's not a shield. So they were machmer, they said this should also become tameh. Ve'ein chaytzim b'fnei tumah. U'poislim b'sukkah mishum avir. Here's a big chiddush. We don't have to remember this halacha so much now. We're going to learn about it later. But it's very simple. If you leave an empty space, a void in your schach, 3 tfachim, pasul. The sukkah is gone. In the middle. If you put pasul schach in there, then it's not 3 tfachim, then it's 4 tfachim. And if it's on the side of the sukkah, it's 4 amas. Why? Doifen akuma. But without all those halachas, if you have a bunch of marar, you threw up marar on top of your sukkah, it acts as ear. It doesn't act as pasul schach. Even though you're saying it's mekabel tumah and should be, it's food. It's mekabel tumah. It should be pasul schach. It's worse than pasul schach. Where pasul schach is only pasul with 4 tvachim, now it's pasul with 3 tvachim because 3 tvachim is as if it's not there, and you have a skylight that's 3 tvachim and it pasul the sukkah. My timer. But what's the reason? Since we're dealing with vegetables, they're going to dry up in the sun, and they're going to fall down. So right now, I'm machshav it. I consider it as complete air, and air passes with 3 tefachim. We're going to a beautiful sugya of yadais. The word sounds scary, but it's actually not. I left the other prop at home, unfortunately, but I have this. Baruch Hashem, I have this. This is what we call a yad, a handle. It's beautiful. A guy wants to eat a pulki. You ever went to Great America? 10 years ago I went. Maybe not 30 years ago. When it was only for from people on Pesach. No, but I went when there's non-from people. So they eat, yeah, whatever. They eat this massive turkey pulki, like I don't know, it's sugar or something. Like they're all walking around like this with the yad, and they eat this thing. It's gross, shenkibayu. Fine, huh? Yeah, I was thinking, this is a cave thing. Yeah. So this is a yad. Now, what does that have to do with that sugya? A lot of items have a yad, and the truth is that food is mekabel tuma, but a handle should not be mekabel tuma. It's not food. But if you need the handle for the food, you're in Great America. Great America is one of these amusement parks in America, like Disney World. So if you're in a whatever you are, you're at a Shabbos table, and this is how you eat your pulki. So you need the handle. You need the handle. The handle is part of the food, and it's mekabel tumah like the food. Will also bring, if the tumah touches here, the tumah will go over here. If the tumah touches here, it will go over there. It becomes like food, even though you're never going to eat this bone. Now, in our sugya, we're talking about tzchach. So you have a boitzer lagas. You are harvesting grapes. And grapes, we know, come with those, what are they called? Stalks. Nah, it has to have a better word. All these branches, these little baby branches. Stalks. Vine. Nah. No, it's a cluster of grapes. So what attaches one grape to the other? Stems that's better than these English guys with their. Okay, very good. He has a yad. On the spot. Lamaisa Gershon is paying attention. That's the ikir. Fine. Wow, who's that guy on the screen? Oh, it's Chab. Wow. Okay. It's the reverse. I heard a Maisa that was said by Rabbi Fran this Tisha B'Av. He said that there was a guy that was nifter, and somebody just went to Simcha or something. I just heard it secondhand, so I'm missing the details. So don't even bother sending me the email because I get it. But the point of the story is like this. Somebody's nifter, somebody went to like a Simcha or something, and all of a sudden, he sees the nifter walking around. Obviously, it's not the nifter, because the nifter was nifter. It's the twin of the nifter. So he says, wait a minute. Who are you? I'm the twin. But you never had a beard. Your brother had a beard. He says, no. Ever since my brother was nifter, I wanted to remember my brother. So I grew a beard, and every time I look in the mirror, I remember my brother.
Named his children so that he would remember his brother.
Remember?
I wasn't at my brother's chuppah, so I named my son Chupin, so he should always remember that I wasn't at my chuppah.
See, your father knows his stuff. He knows his stuff. Yes.
So what was the point?
He said it was one of the most amazing mices. No, that the it's a serious thing. A person grew a beard. I'm not going to do that. He grew a beard so that when he looks in the mirror, he should remember his brother. It's unbelievable. I'm going to start calling you Basie or something. Basie, whatever. Okay, fine. Edit. Where am I holding? Here we go. So if he harvests his grapes and he has all these stems on it, these, you don't need a stem for grapes. Why? If I'm making grape juice or wine, I'm making wine, do I want those stems? Absolutely not. The more stems I have, the worse it is. So since I don't want it, it's not part of my grape. Over here, I want it, so it's a yad. So that's halacha by grapes. So let's remember, Rav Huna says the halacha only by grapes. What about wheat? I don't know. Rav Menachem Begado Amar Rav Huna, he says, if he cuts off a stalk of wheat, ein lo yodois. Why? Because the kernels are not good for schach. They're food. So all I want is the bottom part. So I don't want the two things connected. So the one who says when it has to do with wheat, of course he doesn't want the stems, or what did the English people call it? The whatever, the loinichale, the loinichale, because it's going to ruin the wine. But the one that said by grapes this halacha applies, but by grain, you do want them attached. Why? At the end of the day, I want it. Because, the what is it called? The stalk, the shaft, the sheath, it's gonna fly away in the wind. So you need that weight to be there, and that's why I want it attached, and therefore if I want it attached, it automatically becomes a yad. Says the Gemara. Name of the Rabbi Nashi Bar Gad Tanoi. Perhaps this is Machlokes Tanoi. The Sanya. If you have fig branches, and on the fig branches you have figs, these stems, and you have grapes, and you have the wheat together with the kernels. That whole thing, I said this a few times already. There's a guy here in Bet Shemesh that trains dogs, German shepherds, to smell the bugs in the date trees. And these dogs cost $100,000. Why? Because dates, each tree produces, between $5,000 and $15,000 worth of dates a season. So when you have one of those machbedos, and on the bottom tons of dates, very, very valuable. Kulad, im psoilas meruba ala achlin ksheira. If the non-essential parts of the date tree, the wood, if that's the roiv, then it's kosher for schach, and la psula, then once again you have a lot of dates, and dates are food, and food is mekabel tuma, it's no good for schach. Acher Mrim achiyu kashin merubin ala yodois. So he sticks in here yodois. In other words, yodois, Rashi explains, when we're talking about yodois and we're talking about the machbeda, what's there? The part that's closest to the fruit, that's the yad. And he says that yad is also puzzle for schach. You can't use the yad for schach. You have to have roiv in addition to the yad. And in addition to the food. In other words, the food and the yad go together here. This goes together, these two things go together, and all the psoila stuff, the branches and the leaves, and that has to be more than this. In other words, yad is puzzle for schach. So we have a good machlokes here. The Masovar Yishlam Yodos. Rebbe Abba holds that these leftovers are considered a yad. The Masovar Elam Yodos. Rebbe Nashi holds not. We can't get out of saying that according to Rebbe Abba, who says that by wheat it does have a yad, that this is machlokes tanoim. However, the Rebbe Nashi, the Gemara is going to explain. According to Rebbe Nashi, we're not forced to say this is machlokes here. Why? You could say if you cut the wheat and you have intent for schach, then the kernels are not part of it. What happened was that at first he didn't want to do when he harvested the wheat, he had zero intent for schach. He said, I want to make money off this, I want to make bread out of it. So it's la'achila. La'achila means he wants the kernels. Later on, he decided he wants to use it for schach, and we're going to flip it into yados. As the Gemara, so then according to Rabbanon, why don't we have yados here? What happened was, he decided to flip it into schach. And when you flip it into schach, you're taking away the original machshava. He starts harvesting the wheat for food. But then in his mind, he did a flipperoo. He changed it. Why can't he change it? He went from food to schach. He made it into schach. Is that okay? Could you change something in your head? No. Who said yes? Why? How could you? So I'm going to prove to you wrong. It was a trick question. Sorry. Shabbos what? Daf Nun. Wow, okay, you threw me there. Now I have to trust you, and then you got out of it. Okay, great. I'm going to look it up. How could you be mevatel, make something from food into schach? But now, and we learned in the Mishnah, you could make, maybe this is what you mean. You can make a kli tameh just by thinking that it's done. You have a kli, you're not sure, is it finished, not finished? With your mind, you say, I'm done with it. The moment that you decide that you're done, it becomes a kli, mekabel tuma. But once it's mekabel tuma, like over here, we have food. He harvests the grain for food. So it's mekabel tuma because it's food. In order to flip it and make it into schach where it's not mekabel tuma, the only thing you could do is change it physically. And the Gemara goes on, just two more lines. To take action and change something, it's so strong that even if you took action beforehand, it will undo that action, but certainly it'll undo a thought. Machshava, just a thought, to say that it went from food to schach. A thought does nothing. Zero. And the story will stop here in the middle of a sugya. Rabbi Isai, have a wonderful day. Be'ezer Hashem, next year is live from New York, the Five Towns, 1 p.m. tomorrow. Here, it's going to be on the screen at the same time, 7:15, Shachris before, Shachris after. But because I'm in New York, I always go overboard. 8:20 end this year. You should. No, just speed me up. By the way, you could do that. No, a little bit, 5%, 7%. It sounds like Kilo, I know what I'm talking about.